All right, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and this video is about in the book of Daniel, where does salvation come from? Because it does not come from the Messiah, believe it or not. And also, what is the interpretation of the second time that Daniel appears before the king and has the vision, which also parallels the four beasts vision that he later had? But the first time Daniel appears before the king, at the end, there's an interesting statement in chapter 4, verse 27. And I'm going to back up for just a minute to verse 24 and read through verse 27. All right, so we get a little bit of the context. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which has come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. Remember, the king declared himself God in the flesh earlier, previously, and then he does it again later. And then God curses him that day and turns him into thinking that he's a donkey so that he eats grass for 7 years. All right. That they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and give it to whomsoever he will. All right. So let me stop right here and talk about Native Americans. It turns out that the doctrine of manifest destiny is actually true according to Daniel. He gives the kingdom of men to whomsoever he will. The fact that the Native Americans were wiped out by deists, mostly the colonists were deists, not Christians. Christians came later to the U.S. But the fact that the United States Native Americans were wiped out shows that God took it away from them one way or the other. One way or the other, the real God who actually exists took the Native Americans out and gave their land to the Europeans, didn't he? One way or another, that was an act of God, whether you think you agree with it or whether you think you disagree with it. And you better agree with it, because the charges against the Native Americans were laid out in the Declaration of Independence, which any of you Native Americans that still live can read. I actually am part Jew and part Native American, by the way. I'm about 1%, half a percent to 1% Jewish, and a couple percent Native American. So I'm talking about my own relatives. I'm mostly German, actually, but which is where we tie in with Jewish. But I'm actually part Native American. Somewhere in my ancestry, I got Native American. So I'm not whatever. All right. So I can say, as a descendant of a small amount of Native Americans, that hey, those people were wrong. They were worshiping devils. They were committing human sacrifice. They were cannibals, and now they're gone. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee, after that thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule. Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquities by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility. In other words, Daniel's telling him how to repent is first do good, and secondly, show mercy to the poor, which, by the way, Americans hardly ever do in any real way. For example, this is why raising minimum wage doesn't help in the United States. When they raise the minimum wage, the owners double the price of everything because they think they're supposed to make $1 million an hour, whereas everybody else makes $1 million in one entire lifetime. Let's go to the next story about Daniel. I gotta find the right chapter. This has been a while since I did the full study my own self. That's the writing on the wall. Let me see where it is. Gotta get the right. That's the writing on the wall. That's not it. All right. Wait a minute. Let me make sure that I'm reading. All right. The first vision that Nebuchadnezzar had. All right. It's actually in chapter 2. In chapter 2, uh, verse 27, Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, and the magicians and the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets and maketh known to the king of Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Let me explain right here to atheists, if there's an atheist watching this, or if any atheist does happen to watch this. The reason believers believe in God is because when you seek him, he actually will speak to you. He will speak to you audibly in your ear. He will give you dreams and visions of the future, which will come to pass either the very next day or a week or a month or a year or two or 10 years later. And you will, boom, know that that absolutely happened, that I knew this by revelation from God a year or two in advance. Let me give you some examples. I knew and predicted the exact landfall of Hurricane Rita by divine revelation several days ahead of time because God gave me a dream about it a month ahead of time. And I nailed it more accurately than the weather forecasters did farther ahead of time because of that. Not because I'm anybody, but because God told me that that was going to happen in a vision. All right. The 2011 tornado outbreak and the Japan tsunami, I predicted on Dr. Jeff Masters' Wonderground blog both of those things ahead of time, about 6 months ahead of time, because God told me those things in a vision. The first, the tornado outbreak, and the other one, I simply uttered a prophecy onto the keyboard, and I typed out when someone asked, can a hurricane destroy a nuclear reactor? And I said, quote, no, a hurricane cannot destroy a nuclear reactor. I said the only thing that can destroy a nuclear reactor would be a 9.0 or bigger earthquake. And I said, but that would only happen in Japan or California. And you better watch out in California because you might be next. But then, lo and behold, 6 months later, it hit Japan, and I knew instantly that they were melted down. And all of the scientists tried to deny whether the reactors were melted down or not. And I said, chemical energy does not blow a concrete roof off a structure and blow it a mile high in a split second like that. I said that had to be nuclear energy that did that, and that had to be a meltdown. It wasn't a full blown nuclear explosion, but it was a meltdown. And you had Bill Nye and all these other supposed scientists that didn't even know what they were talking about, saying, oh, it's not a reactor meltdown. That was just a hydrogen explosion, blah, 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 blah. And 5 of the 6 reactors melted down, not counting the cooling bonds. Turned out none of them knew what they were talking about. All right. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. So this vision is about the end of time. It's not about the end of that kingdom, which is mistakenly taught by dispensationalist Christian preachers. He says, what shall be in the latter days? Thy dream and the visions of the head be upon a bed are these. All right, so let's get to the fourth kingdom, the part that is made of iron and clay. His legs, verse 33, his legs of iron and his feet part iron and part of clay. Thou sawest still that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, and it were iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron and the clay, the brass and the silver and the gold broken into pieces together and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor. So all of these kingdoms are going to be utterly destroyed. And the wind carried them away, and that no place was found for them. And a stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will show the interpretation thereof before the king. All right, thou, O king, are a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And whosoever the children of men dwell, wheresoever the children of men dwell, the peace of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given unto thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another and third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these things shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest that the feet and toes were part potter's clay and part iron, the kingdom shall be divided. That's the United States. There are 50 United States, and all they do with one another is infight and bicker and fight and accuse one another. And the liberal states hate the conservative states, and the conservative states hate the liberal states. And we have the most powerful military in the history of the world. Our military is more powerful than every other nation in the world combined. But our weakness is in our politics. We lose wars over stupid political issues, and we do nothing but waste all our money on politics. That's the clay. So the iron is the military, and the clay is the politics. As the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. That's the United States. Maximize diversity for no good reason other than maximizing diversity. And they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these four kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that a stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, and the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and a dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Uh-oh. What do you do when you have a prophetic dream and you don't know what to do about it? Tell it to some other people that you trust and see how they respond and pray about it. Problem with me is I only know one other person that I trust on the earth, and that's my own mother. I don't trust my sister. I don't trust my brother. With that knowledge, I sure as heck don't trust preachers, because they're the most corrupt people on the face of the earth is the so-called Christian preachers. So then, Nebuchadnezzar, not quite understanding that there's only one God, not multiple gods, he responds to Daniel, of a truth it is that your God is a God of gods and a Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets, seeing that thou canst reveal a secret. He doesn't yet fully understand that there's only one God. There's not multiple gods. So it took another half of his lifetime before he came to admit that there was only one God. But Daniel has another vision, which is signified in four beasts, which parallels Nebuchadnezzar's vision. And let me explain the fourth beast of that dream. Let's see. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. That's the United States. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days, who is God. For some reason, people don't understand that Ancient of Days is just another name for God. They think Ancient of Days was some kind of technology, or maybe the throne of God, or maybe something else. Ancient of Days just means God did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and his hair and his head like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgments were set, and the books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which were the horn spake of the fourth beast. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed. United States, and whoever's leading it at that time, and given to the burning flame, hell. United States. The fourth beast, the last great kingdom of the earth, is going to hell, according to Daniel. And according to the Bible, Daniel is one of the 3 most righteous men who ever lived. And he says the United States, the last great beast, right before the judgment of God, is going to hell, both the beast and its leader, the man. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, and all people, nations, and languages should serve him. See, this is the first coming of the Messiah, does not happen until the end of time. So Jesus is not fulfilling this Messiah prophecy in Daniel, no matter who says otherwise. Jesus does not fulfill that, and did not fulfill that, and cannot fulfill that, because Jesus is dead if he ever did exist. An everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. And I came near unto one of them that stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts which are four kings which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Right here on this same earth, by the way. So Revelation claiming that God is going to destroy the earth and remake it, and destroy all of the universe and remake it, contradicts this. He says, these saints in the Most High shall take this kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Why does he say that? Because in the book of Genesis, if Genesis is supposedly written and authored by the same God, in the book of Genesis, chapter 8 and 9, verse 15, I think, God promises that there will be a perpetual number, an infinite number of humans right here on this same earth in the future. That he is never going to destroy the earth again, not by any means, not just a flood, because Christians are fond of saying, well, God promised not to destroy the earth by water, but next time, according to Revelation, he's going to destroy it by fire. Wrong and ridiculous. He said, so long as the earth remains, day and night, and summer and winter, and cold and heat, and seed time and harvest shall not perish from the earth. Wrong and ridiculous, Christians. He says right here in Daniel that you're going to, the true believers are going to possess the entire earth, this same earth, forever and ever. So, who started the false prophecy of end times? Because forever is still time, and forever and ever is still time. But in the New Testament, we certainly have end time prophecies, which is a lie, because that's not the end of time, that's the end of an age in Daniel's book. But in the New Testament, they claim that it's an end of time. In fact, Peter claimed that the end of the world was about to happen in the book of Acts. He said that the supposed sign of tongues, which is a fraud, by the way, was the end of the world. You can read it yourself. Get the book of Acts out with the Bible. All right. He claimed that that sign was the end of the world, and it's been 2,000 years since that happened. Let's read the book of Deuteronomy 13, because I want to show you what to do with false prophets. Deuteronomy chapter 13. The word of false prophets and false gods. That's the head of the book, of the page. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or wonder, and the sign or wonder come to pass whereof he spake unto thee, saying, let us go after other gods which thou hast not known, and let us serve them, thou shalt not hearken unto them words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God proveth you, or tests you, to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after the Lord your God and fear him, and keep his commandments, namely the first and second commandment are the two most important ones. Thou shalt have no other gods before Jehovah, and thou shalt not make unto yourself any graven image of anything in heaven, earth, or the sea to bow down to. I am the Lord, he said. And obey his voice, the Lord, and ye shall serve him and cleave unto him. To obey his voice, you got to hear him, don't you? He actually talks to people deep inside your heart and in your mind, and sometimes he'll even talk to you audibly in your ear. He says, obey his voice and cleave unto him. And that prophet or dreamer of dreams shall be put to death, because he has spoken to turn you away from the Lord your God, which brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust thee out of the way which the Lord thy God commanded thee to walk in. So shalt thou put evil away from the midst of thee. Deuteronomy 13 tells you to put false prophets to death as soon as you prove that they're a false prophet. Doesn't tell you to keep listening to them. Doesn't tell you to tolerate them robbing everybody in your country. It tells you to put them to death, doesn't it? You can read it for yourself. Chapter 13, verse 5. As soon as you prove that they're a false prophet. If thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is thine own soul, entice thee, secretly saying, let us go and serve other gods which thou hast not known, thou nor our fathers, namely of the gods of the people which are round about you, nigh unto you, or far off from you, from one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth, thou shalt not consent unto them, nor hearken unto them, neither shalt thine eye pity him, neither shalt thou spare, neither shalt thou conceal them. But thou shalt surely kill him. Thine hand shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hand of all the people. Why does God say that? And it's not that God's mean and hateful and spiteful and blah 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 blah. What is all the why? What happened to the Native Americans? They were committing human sacrifice, so the real God destroyed them. That's why that happened. They were killing their own children. And what wonder of wonders, the United States has killed more people of its own children than just about any other two nations in the world combined. We've had well over 100 to 120 million abortions since the original Roe versus Wade ruling. And thank God that ruling has finally been overturned, but we need to go a step further. We need to ban abortion, don't we? The Nazis killed over 50 million people in World War II. The United States has killed over 100 million people of its own citizens through abortion ever since World War II. Don't you think God is angry? Don't you think God is angry? I promise you, the United States is going to be destroyed exactly as Daniel said in the Bible. There's going to be a meteor from space strike the United States and utterly destroy the United States. And it doesn't even have to be me predicting that to you. It was predicted by Daniel, one of the three most righteous men who ever lived, a little over 2,500 years ago. All right, that's going to be the end of the video. This is going a lot longer than I realized.